Hello and welcome back on my channel. Thank you so much for joining me again to check out day number 3 in the Once Upon a Book Club Advent box. If you are new to the party, check out day 1 where I explain a little bit more about it. Basically what we're doing is sit back, grab your favorite beverage. I have my tea right here. Because I will be reading a short story to you. In this book we have 12 short stories that come with the 12 wonderful gifts behind me, and today we're on day number 3. So as soon as in the short story we are hitting this page where it has this little printed bookmark, sticky note, whatever. We will then open up day number 3, and I'm so excited for this. Now, the story is called Somewhere by Celisa Loesa, and in the very beginning we have a link to a Spotify playlist, which I would have loved to open, but I have tried putting this long-ass link into my browser 2 times, and I've typed it up, and it doesn't work. So I'm assuming that I'm making some mistakes, but honestly, just put a QR code because typing this up was a pain, and now it's not even working. Anyways, sit back, put down in the comments how you like this, how you like the story. Let me know if you are still missing any details on the Once Upon a Book Club that you would love to know, because I am happy to share. But now let's see what the story Somewhere is all about. Dress rehearsal, a blur, a tug, then a flurry of red on the floor. Lena's hands shot to her stomach as she saw the red sash that had been so delicately stitched onto the iconic white dress with the ruffles laying on the ground. She looked up in shock as Regan glared into her face. The rest of the room stood frozen in time. "You do not belong here. You don't belong anywhere," spouted Regan. Lena sucked in a gulp of air before she slapped her hand across her mouth to suppress a cry. She ran off the main stage, through the backstage, and out the doors into the cool California winter night. Her perfectly curled brown hair shone in the moonlight while what felt to be the final shard of her heart broke. Time rushed back, and the stage returned to commotion. 2 months before. All right, it looks like we've got you all set up, and your next class starting in 15 minutes is drama. Excuse me? Drama? Startled Lena. Yeah, the guidance counselor stammered while shuffling papers. The only other elective with availability is advanced photography, and since you said you've never taken an introduction course, I can't put you in there. I'm sure there are options like set design if you don't feel comfortable. Laurie interjected immediately. "You won't have to be front and center if you don't want to, right, Mrs. Bino?" she asked with an arched eyebrow and a little too high pitch of the voice. Her optimism overflowed in its full foster mother hopefulness with a little bit of a mama bear attitude. "Yes, of course," replied Mrs. Bino, just a little too quickly, as though she wasn't so sure herself. "The great thing is we are at the beginning of the 2nd trimester. Mr. Szymanski is just assigning roles in the next musical they are working on, The West Side Story." Lena felt a pick in her heart upon hearing the name of her late grandmother's favorite musical. In order to prevent tears, she settled on rolling her eyes. If she couldn't control any of the choices in her life, since it seemed everyone made them for her, from the courts to the system to the foster parents of the season, she would take advantage of showing the one thing she could control, her facial expressions. She reminded herself that she just had 1 more year until she turned 18 and could finally make it on her own. She wouldn't let any obstacle that could appear this year deter her from finally moving on to independent living. Then she wouldn't have to deal with anyone at all and could protect her heart. Fine. Lena stood up, grabbed her backpack, placed her headphones back in her ears, and forced a smile. "Shall I go to class?" Okay, and now we're supposed to open the attached Spotify playlist and play A Change Is Gonna Come by Sam Cooke. If I get the play this to work. I'm going to link it down in the description box and you can just open it up and listen to it while I continue reading. Drama. 17 heads swiveled around to face her as soon as the metal door thudded into place behind her. All eyes turned to Lena and she stared back, just as curious. Behind the students, splayed throughout the 3 rows of seats, was a large stage with worn wood floors. Stage props ranging from hats to brooms and dusty red curtains held by layered rope as they lined each side of the stage. Propped on the edge of the right of the stage sat a large man with a green and white plaid shirt and peppered gray hair on his head and through his beard. He peered up at her through thin glass frames and warmed the room as a slow smile spread across his face. "Well, hello there and welcome. How shall we receive your presence, young lady?" Lena broke out of her daze and began walking down the aisle towards him. She pulled the forlorn Jansport backpack off her back and towards her chest as she reached inside for her new schedule. "I'm your new student," she said as she handed him the slip. She was used to this part. "Keep your head up, play cool, stay quiet, and keep out of people's business," were her top 4 rules of blending in at a new school. "This appears to be true. Welcome to Pueblo High's theater department," he boomed. "Take a seat and prepare to be transformed," then waved his hand towards the rows of students. She exhaled in relief when he didn't make her introduce herself to the class and share where she's from. She turned, saw an open seat at the end of the 3rd row and sat in the blue rickety chair. She felt the gaze of the other teens on her. Most were curious. 2 appeared angry and 1 took her breath away. 2 brown eyes with a slight hint of green in them looked at her under heavy lids and the longest eyelashes she had ever seen. Smooth espresso skin covered a strong jawline and cheekbones leading to the darkest black wave of curls on his head. Their eyes caught and stayed, introducing themselves to one another in the most informal yet personal way. Lena gulped and forced her eyes away. "Absolutely no distractions," she scolded herself and turned her attention back to Mr. Szymanski as he dove deep into telling of 2 young lovers from different parts of the neighborhood fighting for unity. Now the song opened Maria Maria by Carlos Santana. 1 week later during lunch. "What's with the iPod?" she heard a voice asking from above her and lifted her gaze to see a teasing smile. She was leaning against the brick wall of one of the buildings, doing her best to not be seen, but the beautiful boy with the espresso skin managed to see her. She has learned by now that his name was Seneca. I have no idea how to pronounce it, I'm sorry. And although she attempted to avoid him because of the shocks he sent her body, he always found a way to talk to her. She slightly smiled, then hesitated and tightened her hands around the heirloom as though he were going to take it. She considered whether to tell a lie or go with the truth. "It belonged to my mother." She released some of her tight grip. "Belonged?" "Yeah, belonged. She's not around anymore." She didn't tell him how excited her mom was that February in 2006 when she got the newest up-and-coming gadget and how it felt like magic to have so many songs in the palm of her hand. Or how it was one of the few ways to keep the memories of her mom before the mental illness took over. Or how she never met her father, but his favorite song was in there, so she felt connected. Or how it reminded her that Abuelita would so late into the night when she became her guardian and Lena would listen to her iPod every night until her death. Or how she learned how to use a beat-up third-hand laptop given to her by one of her foster parents to keep her music updated in it. The oars were endless. "I get that. My dad's not around." He looked down at his feet as he said it. She all of a sudden had an urge to open up, something she never did. A way to show she sympathized and understood the pain. And it's more than that. Music takes me back and it also takes me away. I picked up different songs based on my own family, different tastes of music from different foster families, people I met at different schools. It's one of the only forms of my history I have. So it's like a musical history book? She laughed. It's musical her storybook. That's cool. What are you listening to now? She slid the black neckband headphones off her head and handed them to him. He placed them over his ears as she pressed play, and they sat together as he listened to pieces in her story. Now we're listening the playlist Unthinkable by Alicia Keys. Auditions. The winter feeling finally made its entrance in Los Angeles. 60 degrees called for sweaters, beanies, and the latest stylish boots for the average Angeleno. After the final bell of the school day rang, students rushed into the theater and immediately began pulling the top layers of clothes from their body. Laughing, jokes, excitement, and singing danced through the air in anticipation of the day's auditions. Mr. Szymanski was known for his unconventional approach to cast parts in his productions. He always began with smaller part auditions leading to the main roles. With every part played, no matter how small, one had to play through the chosen scene or song, then answer a question about the context or character. He felt it was pivotal that an actor was more than one who just looked the part, but could truly connect with and bring the character to life. As soon as the students were settled, the process began. Scenes played out over various characters from the Jets and the Sharks to fill in the roles for characters like Baby John, Velma, Indio, and Consuelo. Officer Krupke's audition had everyone roaring. Energy intensified as auditions for Anita, Bernardo, and Riff went on, and by the time the two main characters' auditions came up for Tony and Maria, the room was on pins and needles. "All right, Regan, you're up," said Mr. Szymanski. Everyone knew how badly she wanted the part. She talked about it every chance she got and could often be found singing "I Feel Pretty." Most would agree she did have the prettiness for the part. Her fair and flawless skin drew many eyes to her, and she even wore a white long sleeve with ruffled cuffs to align with the character. Regan sang beautifully alongside Stephen, who was trying out for Tony, and they both beamed at the end of their song. Now, Regan, what are we learning from this scene here? What message are Tony and Maria portraying? Love is always the answer. They are ready to make life as they want it. It's all about them and they're going to make it. Polite applause followed as she took a bow and smugly returned to her seat. "Alina, you're up." "I'm not planning on auditioning, Mr. Szymanski. I'm glad to assist with set production," spluttered Lena. "I've heard you singing along with that iPod of yours backstage. I think this might be worth a shot. One try, and if it doesn't work, your wish will be my command." She hesitantly walked to the side of the stage, up the steps, and into position next to Stephen. He urged her on with a gentle smile, then handed her the script, which she didn't need after hearing it so many times. She looked down, slightly blinded by the lights, and caught eyes with Seneca. He kept his face serious and nodded, helping her center one last time. She closed her eyes for a second and imagined her abuelita at her sewing machine and urging her on with her serious yet warm demeanor. "Tú lo puedes hacer, mija. You can do this." She turned towards Stephen, the piano, and together they fell into song. She let the lyrics croon out of her mouth and reverberate through her body. She let the lyrics bring her hopes, her pain, her feelings come to life. She let Lena and Maria become one. I'm not gonna sing this bit now, but imagine the someday, somewhere, we'll find a new way of living, we'll find a new way of forgiving. Somewhere, there's a place for us. Somewhere. When the song was over, the room was soundless, mesmerized. A peace had fallen over all. Stephen smiled and winked at her, bringing her back into the world. It still felt as if no one else was breathing when Mr. Szymanski asked in a hushed tone, "Lena, what are we learning from this scene here? What message are Tony and Maria portraying?" All eyes were on her again. She bit her lip. They are tired of hurting. They are full of hurt from a broken world they have no control over. But together they are hopeful. They share dreams of belonging to each other, but not just each other, of belonging together in the world, of really being loved, safe, and accepted. And in their love, they are a unifying force for all that hurt and wrong in the world. She attempted to return to a nonchalant demeanor. I mean, maybe that's what it could be about. And this is why you will make a perfect Maria. There was a gasp in the room, then voices of excitement. Regan stood up, burst into tears, and stormed out of the room. Lena stood looking horrified. In under 10 minutes, her plan of going under the radar for the year was thrown out of the window. And now we listen to Somewhere by Tony and Maria, and then we open Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. Winter break. The weeks leading up to winter break were full of fun that Lena hadn't anticipated. Rehearsals were long, but there was so much comfort in the exhaustion. She was starting to build camaraderie with the other students. Well, most of them. Regan still used any opportunity she had to shoot her menacing looks. After getting the part of Velma instead, she remained upset that Lena was the star of the show. Lena did her best to ignore it, besides she had other feelings to focus on, like the spark in her heart that maybe, just maybe, this place could be called home. During break, she learned that Lori had a sewing machine of her own, passed down from her own abuelita. She had learned that after being single for so long and not wanting to rush into a relationship, she decided to become a foster parent on her own. Her successful career in nonprofit had opened her eyes to how many teens were passed by and left to live in group homes. So she decided she wanted to become a foster parent to a teen. Although uncommon for Mexican Americans to foster a child that was non-related, it was the best path for Lori. And slowly, they were becoming a family. They spent hours hunting thrift shops during break, searching for the perfect Maria-esque dress. They settled on a light cotton white dress, then Lori herself stitched on the red sash and made ruffles. Lori bought her the prettiest white stage heels to match her dress. It had been a long time since Lena felt such care, and although she wanted to fully embrace it, she still guarded her heart like it was too good to be true. She couldn't deny more than anything. She wanted this California life with Lori to be hers. And now open The California Stars by Billy Bragg and Wilco. Dress rehearsal. They were practicing the mambo scene for what felt like the 1000th time. The choreography was fun yet intricate. It was even harder to focus in any scene with Maria's brother Bernardo, the role Seneca had received. They had continued spending time together, connecting over music and family life. She could not deny the sparks. As Mr. Szymanski took a call in his office, the entire cast was left on stage. They began joking around, discussing the upcoming winter formal and who had invited who to dance. Drama kids, we're the weird creative ones that no one gets. They make assumptions about us because they don't get us. We live in a world of imagination and stories. We are the outsiders, Stephen said. So I guess we're all going with each other. We belong together. Regan saw this as a chance for payback. Well, most of us belong here. Give it a break, Regan, called one of their classmates. Why should I? We don't know anything about her, but she waltzes in and we're expected to just roll out of the red carpet for her? Lena had enough. Does this really make you feel better, Regan? Putting others down in order to raise yourself up? Regan smirked. I don't have to put anyone down when they come from the bottom, Foster. Lena stood, mouth agape, confused. She also felt a pang of truth in Regan's words. Everything Lena believed about herself came out of her nemesis's mouth. Seneca stepped forward, grabbed Lena's hand, and faced Regan. The only ones who belong on the bottom are the ones trying to put others there. That's why Lena was given the role of Maria and not you. Regan lunged forward, a blur, a tug on the dress, then a flurry of Maria's red sash on the floor. Lena's hands shot to her stomach as she saw the red sash that had been so delicately stitched onto the iconic white dress with the ruffles lying on the ground. She looked up in shock as Regan glared into her face. The rest of the room stood frozen in time. You do not belong here. You don't belong anywhere, spouted Regan. Lena sucked in a gulp of air before she slapped her hand across her mouth to suppress a cry. She ran off the main stage, into the side, through the backstage, and out the doors into the warm California winter night. Her perfectly curled brown hair shined in the moonlight as though what felt to be the final shard of her heart broke. Time rushed back and the stage returned to commotion. Not commotion like moments before, like full of twirling skirts, foot stomps, and the sounds of the word mambo fluttering throughout the air, but a commotion of heated emotions, shouts, and whispers. How could you, Regan? Shuffling of feet, running out the door to chase Lena. Rumors blooming in the hushes of the murmurs. And the next song we're opening is Where's My Mind by the Pixies. Laurie's house. She slammed the door open and ran into the room where she slept. She refused to think of it as her bedroom. How could she ever think anything there truly belonged to her? She threw herself onto her bed and instinctively reached for comfort and security. But like every other moment of the last 2 years, there was no one to secure her. So she reached for the single belonging that truly felt like hers, her grandmother's pillow. And we are at the little post-it, and the last sentence is mentioning her grandmother's pillow. So I have a feeling we might have a pillow in here. Well, not a full pillow, probably a pillowcase or something. Let's see. How are you liking the story so far? I think there's a lot of cliche stuff in there, so I'm not sure about how I feel about it. So yes, it is a pillow. And I don't like the this hard linen stuff because, well, it's not like it looks fabulous, and it's really hard to lie on, so I don't like this on my face, but I'm loving the look. Do we have anything that we want to replace? Not these two. I don't want to replace either of those. I love both of them. And they actually feel a little bit softer than this linen, so I'm gonna keep these two. But maybe we can replace this one. What do you think? Well, this is going to be really cool on as an added background for our live reading sprints, I feel like. Just leave that on and just put it in here. So, what do you think? Oh, this is really itchy. I cannot use this to actually put my head on. Oh, this is so itchy. Damn it. But it looks good there, doesn't it? What do you think? So far, I'm really liking the gifts that we're getting. Yeah, tell me what you think about this gift. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you're watching this like really, really long after I have published this. It doesn't matter if it's a year after or even longer. Comment on how you're liking the gifts, how you're liking the story. I love to hear from you. Let's finish the story. We have a few more pages. So it's not like on the last page like we had with the two stories before. The pillow her grandmother had stitched together with her own hands. It had previously been hers, but after months of Lena using it, she told her it was hers. After Abuelita's unexpected death due to diabetes complications 2 years before and left her guardianless, it was her most sacred possession along with her iPod. She brought it to her chest and hugged it tightly, yet still, the pain was too deep. She lifted it to her face and could smell the phantom fresh lemon scent of her grandmother. Finally, the dim walls broke and she wailed the most pure instinctive wail possible. She released the tears mourning the loss of her parents. She released the tears mourning the loss of her abuelita. She released the tears mourning the loss of her adolescence. And she released the tears believing that she would never be truly understood or wanted. She let it all pour out. And we're opening from on Spotify Direnme Lorar by Carla Morrison. I'm so sorry for butchering these It felt like hours of tears when a knock surfaced through the door. I want to be alone. There was a pause before Laurie's response. I get and respect that. I just want to be sure that you don't feel lonely through this. Do I have permission to be with you? You want to be alone, but do you want to be lonely, or do I have permission to be with you? Lena wanted to push her away, but after the sting in Regan's words, she knew she was tired of years of loneliness. Come in. The golden knob turned and opened slowly as Laurie entered cautiously, yet tenderly. She walked and sat on the edge of Lena's bed, then gingerly pulled her into her arms. I can't take it anymore. What did I do wrong to deserve this? I was born into my circumstances. I had no control or say, and I do my best, but I'm still never enough. Lena continued. How does an outsider belong in this world when she doesn't even fit in with the outsiders? Laurie bit her lip and let the question seep in before she responded. She looks inside herself. Lena, it's terrible what happened with your parents. And as much as I love having you here, I know it was just as bad losing your abuelita and you'd rather be there. But one thing I need you to know. Laura lifted Lena's chin so she could look into her eyes. None of that was your fault. Here's the real truth about outsiders. It's that each of us is one, but we're also not. We live deep inside our own worlds, looking at society through the lenses we were taught to wear. She paused. The thing is, we each get to look inside and ask ourselves, what is true for me? When we learn and accept our truth, we're no longer defined by whether or not we fit inside or outside of a group, because we know we belong to our own truths that nobody else can define. Lena sniffled. What is true for you? Laurie sighed. For a while, I told myself the story that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough for a man or to be a mother. Even in my work, I felt like an imposter in everything I did. Then I asked myself, what is true for me? And all the things that make me came into my head. I love to read and cry as fictional characters with big hearts learn about themselves, just as I love to connect with people with big hearts in my work. I love to have real conversations, not surface level ones. I love to spend time sewing, listening to the hum of my machine. I love to love and trust one day the right partner may come along. I know what is true for me is that I want to love a beautiful girl and call her my daughter. Lena looked up with hopeful eyes. I know that no role or title is who I am. Who I am is how I love and show up in this world, not my imperfections. I'm not single, I'm not childless, I'm not even my job title. I'm just Laurie, and I'm worthy. I am enough, and I'm even loved, just because of that. Lena let this sink in. When I look at you, Lena, I don't see an outsider or of outsiders. I see Lena. I see you bobbing your head to your music. I see your smiles. I hear your voice. I see strengths through struggles. I see a beautiful young woman who is worthy, enough and perfect just as she is. When I look at you, I see love. And now on Spotify we open Fix You by Coldplay. Opening night. The curtains closed as the crowd erupted into cheers and began clapping for an encore. Lena felt as though she ran a marathon, but she was so grateful that with Laurie's encouragement, she decided to show up. She decided a lot of things last night, including not letting Regan ruin this opportunity. She looked around at her castmates, thinking of how hard they worked together, about how kind they were when she showed up the morning, about how for the first time in years she had friends. I belong here, she thought to herself. In this theater, in this school, in this city, in this home, with these people, I belong just because I'm me. She smiled, grabbed the hand of her new friend, Stephen, on one side of her and looked towards Seneca, who grabbed her other hand. He leaned over, kissed her on the forehead, and smiled the most gorgeous smile. They looked forward, awaiting the curtains to open again, and took another bow together. And we have another song on Spotify. We're opening Lena's father's favorite song, Together by Tiara. Finale. Lena walked out of the theater, hands full of flowers and her costume to wash and wear for the next day's show. Hey, Lena, hold up! She froze as she recognized Regan's voice and slowly turned. You did great up there. You really did, said Regan. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for yesterday and for making your past few months so terrible. The truth is, I saw your files on Mr. Szymanski's desk and read that you're a foster child, and, well, I am too. Lena's eyes opened wide. Regan rushed to finish what she had to say. I felt threatened. Threatened I would be uncovered. Threatened of losing my place in a school where I finally feel I fit in. And when you got Maria, the threat became real and I flipped. Wow, I had no idea. But you do have an idea of this life, and honestly, if you'd let me, I'd like to start over. Maybe we can talk, give each other a safe space, maybe even be friends. Lena grinned. I would love that, Regan. By the way, you play a super fly, Velma. Hey, on stage, you're still a shark and I'm still a jet. Don't get your hopes up too high, Maria, she joked and turned towards her family. See you tomorrow. Lena walked towards Laurie and got in the car in a trance. This day turned out to be one of the most amazing in her life. There was just one more thing to say. Laurie, how do you feel about us becoming a long-term family? Like adoption? Asked Lena. What about your 1-year plan and independent living? Asked Laurie. About that, I've realized I can be independent in some ways and have a family. Someone pretty amazing told me I'm worthy of it all. Laurie reached behind Lena's seat, opened her briefcase, pulled out a folder and handed it to Lena. Good, because I was kind of thinking the same thing. Lena opened the briefcase and saw a stack of papers with a title at the top stating Foster to Adoption Application. Tears streamed down both of their cheeks as they locked hands. Let's go home? Laurie asked. Let's go home, said Lena, as she reached over to turn on the radio. I choose this song. And then we have another song, and that is Lena's happy song, Limbo by Daddy Yankee. And that is it for today. Tell me, what do you think? Honestly, I am a little bit torn. I think that there's some really good ideas in this story, but the way that it's written, I really don't like it that much, to be honest. It's just so flat and so cliche and so tropey and so overly perfect and overly, it all feels so staged, which is, pun intended, I guess. But the conversations, the extreme reactions of Regan are so over the top, and then doing a 180, it just doesn't feel real. It just feels like it's a caricature image of the real story, and I would have preferred to listen to the real story. Do you get what I'm saying? I hope I'm making sense. Yeah, let me know what you think. Did you like the story? Did you like the gift? Does it look good on my couch? Should I leave it there? If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Please leave some comments. I would love to hear from you. Hit that subscribe button, and if you do not want to miss day number 4 or whatever day we're currently on, or any other new videos that I'm putting out, hit that notification bell, and I hope to see you again on my channel real soon. Until then, bye!
Just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would?